Welcome to Skinside Out, where we uncover the science, trends, and truths behind skin health. Your trusted guide to the world of dermatology. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional.
Welcome to Skinside Out, where science meets beauty. I'm your host, Dr. Zain, with aesthetician Courtney. So today we're going to be talking about medical grade skincare versus drugstore skincare. So let's dive right in. So Courtney, what are your definitions?
Medical grade skincare is such a hot topic, and I see people all the time on social media definitely dissing that term. And to be fair, it's not a true term. Other than when I think of a cosmeceutical or a medical grade skincare, I just associate that with brands that you can find only in a dermatology office or some kind of med spa aesthetic. Yeah. And for me, I like the term in a sense just to differentiate because I do think there are some differences that we'll talk about later. But essentially, obviously, drugstore skincare, that's something that you can find at any, Walgreens, CVS, Target. And these cosmeceuticals are, things that you can find at mostly offices. So we'll kind of get into what that entails. But I think it's a hot topic, and I'm not totally anti using the term. Maybe that's an unpopular take, but that's just me.
So let's kind of dive into medical grade skincare itself. So typically these products have active ingredients at a higher concentration or more advanced ingredients. And they typically have some studies behind them. There's usually some clinical data.
Patents,
but still not exactly FDA regulated like a prescription medication. And we do see that these products are at a higher price point in general. So my first question is, does the price of the product really equal the efficacy?
No.
Okay.
I always reference that brand La Mer, and people love that moisturizer. I cannot justify ever spending
$400 on a moisturizer.
And it's like a small jar.
You know that Costco used to sell it?
Really? That doesn't surprise me. I just, I think as a price conscious world that we live in, I definitely, and it's funny about you saying that they're typically more expensive, the medical grade, because some of these products in the drugstores now are getting to that price point. Some of that Drunk Elephant, some of some of the products that I've seen over the counter are at that same price point. That being said, it's funny because just because it's more expensive does not always mean that it's better.
Yeah. However, some of these ingredients are more expensive to develop, and there's also studies that also incur costs, right? So these companies aren't just blindly, trying to have a higher price point. They do believe that their product is superior, and they have, studies to kind of back it up. So there are some products that I do definitely feel deserve a higher price point because they are more expensive to develop. The research is there, and we clearly see results. And if not used properly by the masses, it can cause issues. Right?
And I think, again, going back to just being price conscious, I am a really big believer of, in certain areas, being able to save. If I have a patient who's coming to see me who says, I really want to address sun damage or whatever, anti-aging. Okay, what does your budget look like, and where do we need to spend kind of the maximum? And it's always, for me, going to go back to a good vitamin C. I think you should not cheapen out on the vitamin C, and a good retinol or retinoid. Those really, moisturizers we can work with. We can use our CeraVe, our cleansers. We can use, again, La Roche. I love La Roche. But there are ingredients that I think you really do need to spend the money on, because half the time you're spending the money anyways, and then it's not working.
And, for instance, with vitamin C, there are stable forms and unstable forms. The unstable forms, which I find in a lot of these drugstore brands, they don't work. They oxidize really easily. And you're essentially buying a relatively expensive product without the efficacy. And it does require a lot of chemistry and a lot of research and development to produce like a stable form of vitamin C. So, we always knock on, SkinCeuticals. I mean, they were the king of vitamin C's in terms of serums, and they have a really good stable molecule, and that's kind of been the gold standard. But it probably cost a lot of money to produce that product, and also they have tons of studies that have shown its efficacy.
Yeah. And, I think back to Revision, which is one of my favorite brands, even their vitamin C. I mean, they're using the THD, which is the tetrahexyl hydrate, like the plant-derived vitamin C, and it's a lot more stable than your L-ascorbic acid. And for them to be able to obtain that costs them a lot of money. So of course they are going to have to mark up their prices. But that being said, the efficacy is so much superior, I think, to a lot of the common vitamin C's out there.
Yeah, and the retinols out there, there is a huge range of products out there. Some which I feel like do absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
and they're just very. They're marketed as very tolerable retinols, but I don't think they do anything.
How I feel about like the CeraVe one, the purple one. I get a lot of patients who come in who are saying, "Oh, I've been using this for the past few months, and like I don't know if I'm seeing much of a difference." And I'm just like, all right, well, let's get you on something like maybe a little stronger, because it is a very like abstract term, I feel like, and they can vary so much. And then you have the opposite where sometimes they're really irritating for patients, and you don't want that either. So, I mean, I love like Skin Better's brand a lot.
I absolutely love that stuff.
Yeah, love. Sponsor
the
me.
the Alpharet overnight cream. I love that entire line because it conjugates the retinol with glycolic acid. So for enhanced penetration, higher efficacy, but without the irritation. I love that one. Yeah,
some of these brands that we sell in office, like where the difference comes from is, number one, definitely the studies, and number two, sometimes like niche ingredients or niche ways of them formulating their product. So for example, like with the Skin Better, their Alpha-Ret is a retinol, or it's essentially equivalent to a prescription strength tretinoin 0.025, and it's also got glycolic, which historically, and if you've ever used, because this happened to me, if you've ever used glycolic separately and with your retinoid, you can induce your own peel. I've done it.
That'll tear up your skin.
It will tear up your skin. Talk about being dry, flaky. So, they've essentially created this to almost, you can think of it as like a time release, like a delayed release, for tolerability. So I think that's where sometimes some of these products do shine.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's all about the development interplay of these molecules. And same thing with compounded medications. Like they're formulated together to get you this result and increase tolerability. And some of my patients, they don't want to pay for a compound. I'm like, go for it. And then they want the individual ingredients, and you kind of use them together. And it does not produce the same effect, and it can cause a lot of irritation. So there is a lot of chemistry involved. So I give a lot of props to those scientists who develop these great formulations.
Yeah. And, I think back to Revision too, and other lines too, but they have a lot of like, even like just newer, like, ingredient, like sometimes you'll see like just like licorice root, or some of these more like plant derived, and I do think the future of skincare lies a lot in so many of these like plants and marine life that we haven't studied yet. I mean, that's where all of our medicine comes from. So it's really interesting to see what they're utilizing and kind of the studies behind it and how they're working, and then how well they work.
So vitamin C's, retinols. I feel like sunscreen, good quality sunscreen is important. And I don't think you have to pay a ton for it, because those can also range in price. But if you use a good mineral-based sunscreen, SPF 30 or higher, and it feels and looks good on your skin, you'll be using it. I feel like that's a place where you can save and be price conscious, but still protect your skin.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, zinc oxide is zinc oxide. It's
Yeah.
not anything crazy in terms of the formulation that needs stabilization, like the retinoids or like the vitamin C. So just find a good one that you like and that's cosmetically elegant and you'll use.
Yeah, that's how I feel, with even cleansers and moisturizers. Again, like when, if I'm doing a consult and if someone really is trying to be cognizant of how much they're spending, we're going to help them find ways to maximize their routine, but also not, drop like 1K. So moisturizers, especially, like I love the La Roche line. I love CeraVe. I think that both of them have great moisturizers. I think La Roche has a ton of great cleansers. And that's at an affordable rate,
Yeah, I think that they're really elegant, non-expensive, inexpensive forms of moisturizers that contain really good ingredients and will help to improve whatever skincare regimen that you're on.
Yeah. Some products, like I said, I mentioned the vitamin C and the retinol. Glycolic acid is another one of those that I just feel like
Magic.
I don't like an over-the-counter glycolic. I think the pH can vary so much on those. So I get a little picky with my glycolic too.
Yeah. I mean, I like reputable brands.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Glytone.
Yeah, I like Glytone.
I like their glycolics and a few other brands out there.
Yeah.
And the combination of alpha and beta hydroxy acids, it's a nice balance so you get both the benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like anyone that, like, a lot of glycolics, it's either like way too irritating or like it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find that middle ground with them.
Yeah. Let's talk about peptides and growth factors.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Love. Yeah, I think as we shift into this world that we are looking at more kind of restorative treatments, more, I don't want to say natural, but just utilizing our body's own functions, I guess, more. Peptides have been around both growth factors and peptides have been around for a long time, but we're just seeing this new kind of resurgence, essentially. And I love peptides. I think, sometimes in the back of my, I'm like, what is a peptide? All of these brands now love to use that word. And it's like that abstract term. But that's why I like, Neocutis, for example. I love their growth factor serum. I think with peptides and growth factors, you want a more concentrated version. I think it's worth spending the money on something more concentrated.
Another one I really like, the OG, TNS from Skin Medica. It is human-derived like growth factors in a bottle. Like you just apply that topical serum on, and I feel like I see some great results with that one as well. And we carry Neocutis. I really like that line, and there's just more and more lines incorporating these growth factors and peptides to stimulate your own cells to produce various proteins such as collagen, elastin, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen many like growth like drugstore like growth factors. I've definitely seen peptides being more and more incorporated. Even I think like in CeraVe, and I think like even like Eucerin or it's funny because some of these brands, like I look at Eucerin and they used to just be like a eczema line, like a body moisturizer eczema line, but now they're coming out with their like the pigment and the pigment line. And so it's interesting. I think all of them are kind of starting to like dabble and try to get their horizons broadened.
Another popular one, hyaluronic acid. So I think that, using a good pure hyaluronic acid is an added bonus. I don't think it's essential. A lot of the moisturizers now incorporate HA in them. So I don't know if you necessarily have to splurge too much on that unless you really like the HA. I just find a good moisturizer that has HA, and if I need a little extra hydration, I'll use an HA serum. Yeah,
that's what I'll do, especially in the winter. Sometimes I'll add a little HA to whatever moisturizer I'm using, or mix it with my retinoid just to help me tolerate it in the winter because I do get drier, as we all do. But I agree. I think there's so many options out there. Again, like I love the La Roche-Posay one, and I think that's at a great price point. So
Niacinamide.
Yeah, you know what? And I don't even care. I'm saying it. I love the Ordinary's niacinamide.
Okay, yeah. There's nothing wrong with cheap as long as it works, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think niacinamide is one of those great antioxidants that has a lot of benefits, and it is incorporated in a lot of skincare, right? A lot of sunscreens have them,
Mm-hmm.
moisturizers, other compounds. So I do think that niacinamide does play a nice role. It also has some like nice brightening properties too. So I think that if you're looking for something, on the more natural side, niacinamide is like a vitamin derivative, and it does a really nice job with helping with your skin.
I think a lot of like the medical grade skincare, like cosmeceuticals, they'll use a lot of like multifaceted products, right? So they'll have like, again, like the niacinamide in there kind of already with whatever other ingredients they're using. And I think that's sometimes where they shine, is being able to have multiple ingredients in the product, but also multiple concentrated ingredients. So it's a little bit more bang for your buck, in my opinion, if you're able to combine instead of having to buy separately anyways.
Yeah.
So makes sense.
Cool. What's your take on K-Beauty?
I haven't really used K-Beauty.
Fair.
I think a lot of people love it. And if it works for my patients, that's like phenomenal. I'm not gonna steer them. I think that the products are, from what I've seen, good. It's just hard to get into when you have like your
I mean, you already have access to all these great products, and a lot of these K-beauty lines, they kind of incorporate multiple products, multiple steps. They're pretty extensive. So I don't really necessarily think that it's for everyone. Practical me being like, I would rather have less products and keep it simple, but some people really like that self-care portion of it. They really are into, it's almost like a ritual for them. So I mean, go, if it works for you, like, go for it. I mean, there's no problem with it. But it's just not me. I've used products. I've been pretty impressed with a lot of them. Some of them I don't really find too different than what we have here. But I do really like the interest that it's brought into skincare. It's brought in a whole new element. And we have a lot of people more excited about skincare because of the whole K-beauty influence.
Mask and exfoliators. I've seen a lot over the counter. There was the original, we talked about last time, like the St. Ives apricot. That one, not great. So there are, I think about like some of the brands like, Zoe having the exfoliating polish or things like that. And I will say a lot of the over-the-counter exfoliating agents, I don't want to generalize, but I do see a lot of patients who use over-the-counter and they'll get irritated from them. So I think you've just got to be careful about what product, if you are using something, over-the-counter. Like, I see a lot of like the Ordinary, the AHA, BHA peel mask or whatever. And so again, I just think some of them can be a little too irritating, rather than, some of the brands like the Skin Better and things like that.
Got it. Any other comments about medical grade skincare versus drugstore skincare?
Yeah, I think also there's a little bit more support sometimes with things that are bought in the office. I think the brands are a little bit more apt to take, your concerns seriously. So if you did have some kind of reaction to their product, typically, they'll want to investigate that further. And, I think sometimes the drugstore brands, if you have a reaction to like let's just say CeraVe or Cetaphil or whatever, you can message and be like, I had this reaction. I don't know that you'll hear back. I don't think they have sometimes the same customer service.
And I think you bring a good point. When you have medical grade skincare that is dispensed in the office, you are often getting recommended those products by your dermatologist, for instance, and they understand skin on a different level than, say, a TikTok influencer or some other social media avenue where they're getting their information. So when your dermatologist is curating this regimen for you, they kind of have more knowledge, more experience on how this is going to help you with reaching your skincare goals. And I think that's really where the value is. And we know that these products work, otherwise we wouldn't be selling them.
Yeah, true.
Right? So we stand by them, we trust them, and we also get that support from the companies as well. And we get the latest in research. And that's why we want this to be accessible to our patients and also provide them that guidance. So I think that also leads to better outcomes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And we're able to help patients through that if they are experiencing, maybe a little irritation with the retinol up front or things like that. Whereas if you're just buying from drugstore and you don't have anyone to kind of fall back on, if something happens, you're like,
well, they think, I have an allergy. I'm like, no, you don't. And I am not opposed to recommending over-the-counter, inexpensive skincare that will work with your regimen. I am all about being affordable, spending and splurging where it's necessary and saving where it's possible so that it can meet your budget. But there are some ingredients that I really will not compromise on because I don't think you're going to get any benefit from these over-the-counter, drugstore branded skincare.
Yeah.
So there are some times where, either I need to recommend medical grade skincare or even a prescription if we really want to see results.
Yeah, I think to basically sum it up, there are amazing products that you can find at drugstores.
Yep.
There's also products that are not so great. There's amazing products you can get through medical grade skincare. And there also are products in medical grade skincare, different lines that, we might not feel like are that great and are kind of a waste of money. Yeah. So I think that's why it's so important just, doing your research, having a trusted professional to kind of work with and seeing what's right for your skin.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you are stumped, we are here to help you. You're board certified dermatologists, you're aestheticians. We understand skin and we can help you craft your regimen because it is complex. Yeah. It can be confusing. There's so much data out there. So we can help distill it and make it easier for you to comply and get great results. Yeah. So I think that's the key message we want to bring out today.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that, this is a relevant topic. We get asked by many patients, and a lot of people have these same questions. So medical grade skincare, drugstore skincare, they can both be great options for your skincare regimen, but sometimes, you just need a professional to help you pick and choose and craft your regimen. So, I think this was a great discussion. So if you like this episode, please follow, subscribe. Otherwise, Skinside Out.
Thanks for listening. This episode of Skinside Out is complete. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. For more tips, updates, and behind-the-scenes content, be sure to see what fun we're up to on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Nor Dermatology and Aesthetics. Check us out online at norderm.com. Discover why our patients give us 5 stars on Google. Call us today at 919-617-0717.